average homeowner has a lot of equity really just sitting there kind of idle. And I would say that most homeowners are reluctant to tap into that equity, really put it to work, and probably rightfully so without a plan in place.
Kind of scenario that we run into is where people have done a great job of paying their house down or building equity in a home, but if they have neglected other investing, then it might be time to kind of reevaluate and just see if we can reallocate those funds a little bit differently.
In your opinion, when do you think a homeowner should consider pulling equity? What are the common mistakes? When is the best timing? Could you elaborate on that?
Oftentimes people have the majority of their net worth tied up into their home. So having equity in your home, obviously not a bad thing. The main thing we want to look at is, have you neglected your other investing, other assets in order to get that equity in the home? How diversified are you overall? So if we have the majority of our net worth all in our home equity, we might want to look at diversifying into asset classes that will bring down your overall volatility of your investments. So that's a main thing to look for. Second, we want to make sure we have liquid assets. So real estate, generally speaking, is not the most liquid, meaning if we needed money for income or for an emergency or medical issue, it takes time and it costs money to get access to those funds. And there are asset classes that don't have those transactional costs to them and that we can get in our bank account tomorrow if we need to. So we want to make sure we have diversification. We want to make sure we have liquidity. And also we want to make sure we're maxing out all of our tax advantaged accounts.
Do you think it's appropriate to look at equity as kind of this stored savings that should sit there? Or do you think it should be more actively managed and part of an overall financial plan?
Obviously, it depends on someone's kind of risk tolerance and where they are age wise or proximity to retirement and what their goals are in terms of how they want their life to be in retirement. So there's a lot of questions to dive into there, but generally speaking, we want those dollars working for us as much as possible. We want those working for us in a diversified way, like I mentioned, and there are asset classes that can complement real estate, and the percentage in which we would put your funds into different asset classes would vary based on that individual circumstance.
So when a homeowner is reviewing kind of their overall financial picture, and let's say they have identified that there are some shortcomings in their long-term investments or their retirement savings, when is a good time to kind of bring equity into that conversation and determine how to maybe reallocate a little bit to get back on track?
Yeah, so it's never a bad time to look into these things and where our money is and what it's doing for us. But I would say the no-brainer time to do it is if you're selling a home and then looking at buying another property. And the reason I think it should always be a consideration at that time is because you're not adding any extra steps or costs. If you're already selling one home and then looking at buying another home, it's really a great time to just reconsider where all of your assets are and what you're doing with them. And it's a time that would not add any additional cost. So that's why I say that's kind of a no-brainer to consider it if you're selling and looking at a new place.